Hey guys, I'm Neflarg, and today I'm starting a new series called Free Game Friday. Every week I'm going to select a free game that probably doesn't have a lot of exposure and kind of give it some love. And today our first game is Locked. At least I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. It's got like parentheses, so well. And of course, a link to the game is the first thing in the description down below. So let's get into it. For a man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do. The state he is in to its absence or change. Though necessity has made it in itself unalterable. John Locke. Interesting. I wake up. There seems to be a chain here and some heels. I had a good night's rest. In terms of my quality of sleep, I have nothing to complain about. I didn't have a nightmare, or any other kind of dream for that matter. I have been this comfortable in a long time. And yet, the sight before me is something quite unusual to wake up to. Shoes? How often are feet the first thing you see upon waking up? I would wager it is quite a rare event. I cannot even come up with a scenario where this is likely to occur. Except, of course, my own. Clearly, I am looking at a pair of shoes right now, so the probability must be non-zero. It suddenly occurs to me that feet are connected to people. Who's this? Oh, thank goodness, you have come too. I have to admit, I was beginning to miss you. Interesting. She's got like a padlock in her hair. Interesting. Is that a black hole? I have to admit, I was beginning to miss you. The person I've talked to previously was much less pleasant. My cheeks flush upon hearing an open declaration of affection from such a beautiful stranger. Wait, stranger? She isn't a stranger at all. That's right, I've been longing to speak to her. How do you feel? Very good. Glad to find myself in so desirable company. The feeling is mutual. There's nothing I want more than to talk to you right now. Feel free to discuss anything in this room that catches your interest. I will gladly do so. Alright. Yeah, what's with the padlock hair clip? Oh, I took it. Collectible, maybe? Alright, the black hole catches my eye. The moon is quite beautiful today. Oh, so it's a moon. Guess there's like an eclipse or something. How fascinating. Not many people would say that about a new moon. The full moon seems to be preferred by almost everyone. That may be so, but I believe the new moon has its own appeal. I was not disagreeing with you. To me, a new moon is the moon's most beautiful form. It is her most beautiful form because it is her true form. She appears silver to us when illuminated by the sun. But in complete darkness, she is freed from the sun's pesky influence. She can finally stand on her own. Do you believe the moon feels trapped? My question causes her to laugh. It is a beautiful and melodious laugh. The moon is but a celestial object. She cannot feel anything. If I were to trade places with her, I would hate the sun with every fiber of my being. That I am certain of. Oh, she looks not happy about that. Alright. What is this? It looks like the side of a building or something. Oh. What is such an old computer doing here? Old? Do you characterize it as such due to its size? It is true that as technology advances, it becomes better at creating more efficient, smaller parts. On the other hand, if a modern computer is very large, we assume it to be proportionally powerful. But this computer size has no correlation to its age nor its computational power. It is built that way for a much more simple, if not primitive, reason. It is supposed to fit a human inside. Alright. What? Is someone being kept there against their will? Of course not. There is no need to worry. It is merely an exhibition object. In fact, everything around us is but a buffet to provide us with topics to discuss. This computer in particular might be the most interesting. Are you familiar with the Chinese room argument? I don't think so. Would you care to explain it? I also don't know what that is, so I agree with the visitor. Gladly. It is a thought experiment, so please open your mind to a hypothetical scenario. Suppose you do not know any Chinese, and you are put into a room. In that room, you find rule books that tell you precisely how to convert a given combination of Hanzi to a new string of characters. Occasionally, you will receive letters through a mail slot from outside the room. You write down answers according to the rule books and send them back out. Since you follow the rules diligently, your answers are perfectly intelligible, and the people outside assume you are a fluent Chinese speaker. But are you? Evidently not. From looking at the characters alone, I have no means of learning to understand them. No matter how long I pursued this task, I would never become capable of speaking Chinese. Indeed, the human inside the room cannot speak Chinese. There's no question about it. Since the programming of computers is analogs to the rule books you use, it is supposed to show the same thing about them. That computers, no matter how well they can simulate understanding, do not have any. Hear that, Elon Musk? But there is one aspect about this thought experiment that has seemingly been overlooked. Namely, the person inside might still be capable of speaking some language. Clearly, you are brought into the room with an understanding of English, but you are never prompted or given the opportunity to use it. Judging you based on your Chinese abilities is quite unfair. Being stuck inside the Chinese room would be pitiful and terrifying. So what if a computer also had its own native language? What if it even had feelings and needs, with no means of communicating them to the outside world? Even though the Chinese room argument is a mere thought experiment, it exposes a very worrisome fact about artificial intelligence. That is, if a computer somehow comes to obtain emotion, it would be an existence of utter despair. Yeah, probably. While interesting, I do not think this is a real concern. It is highly unlikely that we somehow already discovered how to artificially create emotion. I admit that it is unlikely. It would be no exaggeration to call it a miracle, even. Yet, we would have no way of knowing whether that miracle has already occurred. Said unlucky computer would suffer in silence, with no one ever considering that it might be in pain. Our language barrier is too strong. Tell me, would you put such a computer out of its misery? Initially, I'm inclined to say yes, but I can only notice its pain once it is communicated. By the time I realize that it is suffering, the language barrier would no longer exist. So at that point, the computer would no longer have to be alone. And you would instead spend the rest of your life in its company? Perhaps that would be my moral obligation, yes? I see. Right? Very deep conversation about artificial intelligence. I mean, I don't think my computer is in pain, but might be. I don't know if I'll spend the rest of my life with it. Maybe throw some, cat ears on it, then you're good to go. What is this? You wish to talk about me? I am flattered. What in particular would you like to know? I would be content with any bit of information you share with me. Whoa. But one thing I am particularly curious about is... I gulp before I dare utter my next words. Your necklace. Where? Oh, her necklace is a chain. I cannot bring myself to complete the sentence out of fear of offending her. As a response, her slender figure wanders up to trace the metal ring around her neck. My necklace? Are you referring to this? I nod. Content with my confirmation, her hands slide down to the chain attached to the ring. She gently tugs at it, causing it to clink. And you wish to know where this leads? Her hands move on to the first button of her coat, foreshadowing what would happen if I were to say yes. I'm too mesmerized to utter a single word. Once again, all I can do is nod. She chuckles. Very well, I always value honesty. And, just like that, she puts the uppermost button between her fingers and pushes it through the opening. Once slipped through, slightly more of her upper body is revealed. Getting hot in here. Of course, she is still fully clothed underneath. Nothing about this is inappropriate. And yet, I feel like I am witnessing something I shouldn't. Something not meant for my eyes. Shield your eyes, don't look. Something I can never turn back from. Well, there's a chain. Bearing a knowing smile, she repeats the same motion with the remaining buttons of her coat. She satisfied my request. I should have been contented, but the question of where her chain leads has grown even more puzzling. It's leading to me. I suppose it is time we arrive at the heart of the matter. Would you call yourself free? Please take a moment to consider this and justify your answer. I did not expect her to answer my confusion with a question of her own, let alone a question as peculiar as that. Nonetheless, I do as she says, and choose my next words carefully. Of course I'm free. I can lift my arm, clench my hand into a fist. I can control my thoughts and imagine anything I want in my head. Most of all, there is nothing I desire more than talking to you, which is what I am currently doing. Nothing is preventing me from doing what I want to do. Therefore, both physically and mentally, I am free. I feel like she's about to drop a bomb on us. Interesting. So to you, freedom belongs to volition? Being free is equivalent to being free to do as you please. Unfortunately, I do not agree with that conception. Even as a prisoner, unless restrained from head to toe, can clench his fist if he wills it. And so as long as he's not under the influence of drugs or illness, he can most certainly control his imagination. Yet by definition, prisoners are not free. Lastly, when it comes to wish fulfillment, what if what you want to do simply aligns with what you are able to do? A bird that cannot fly might not wish to leave its cage. It is fully content sitting on a decorative branch and pecking at delicious seeds every day. It longs for nothing, but is never given the opportunity to long for more. Would you say such a bird is free? I suppose not. The bird's circumstances seem to me quite sad, actually. I think so too. The fact that it doesn't long for the outside might just be a shackle of its own. The bird is confined both in body and mind. Despite the fact that it can do as it pleases, freedom will never be in its grasp. I take a moment to ponder her analogy. In that case, I have to agree that my explanation for freedom was faulty. I apologize. Let me offer a new one. There is no need. She lets out a laugh, but this one lacks the charm of its predecessors. After all, I pity you almost as much as myself. She once again moves her fingers to her chain, and grips it with both of her hands. You were curious about this, yes? Then she yanks her chain with brutish strength, completely unlike the first time. So hard, even that my own neck is pulled forward. My own neck? Suddenly, a realization dawns upon me. Our chains are connected? That is correct. I'm surprised the pressure hasn't bothered you until now. To be honest, I still cannot feel it. I only know that it is there. That sounds much more comfortable than my own. I am painfully aware of it at all times. I would not describe my own circumstances as comfortable. Why am I connected to you? Was this your doing? No. I wish I had any amount of control over this place, but unfortunately I do not. If you discover a way to break free, I would love to know about it. So, she is as much a prisoner here as we are. She has no control. No freedom. Brings up an interesting thought about freedom. And what people... that as long as people could be satisfied with their life, that they're fine with not having that freedom, which I think is interesting to think about. For the first time since waking up, I no longer feel at ease sitting in this chair. Her presence is no longer enough to keep me calm. In fact, her smile, which appeared to me so charming before, now seems unsettling. I stand up, the only sound in the room being the rustling of our chain. It was a pleasure talking to you, but I will be taking my leave. Fortunately, the chain is quite long. If necessary, the two of us could stand at opposite ends of the room. I make it to the door without requiring her to move in any way. As my hand hovers above the door handle, I can faintly hear her laugh again. now isn't the time to doubt myself. I enjoyed this stay while it lasted, and it's time to return home. However, opening the door only reveals a solid wall behind it. There was never any exit to begin with. It is beyond your power to escape this place. Evidently, she is telling the truth. Then I assumed the window a fabrication, just like the door. I thought so. Finally aware of my own powerlessness, I sit back down on my armchair. I do wonder if you can be likened to a bird in a cage. Are you a parakeet or an eagle? And am I your companion or Prometheus? Are we a pair of parakeets, content to be in each other's company for the rest of our lives? Or will you tear out my liver every day, torturing me for eternity? Is that an accusation? Have I done anything to hurt you? Do you despise me? I do not. The eagle, just like Prometheus, was stuck in an endless cycle. Of course, it was provided a delicious liver every morning, but it was never allowed to do anything else. It was a prisoner just the same. Therefore, Prometheus had no right to hate the eagle. The real villain, who doomed both of them to that fate, was Zeus. I don't really know that much about, mythology, so some of this a little bit over my head, but I'm following along. For that reason, I harbor no ill will against you either. Quite the opposite. I find pleasure in our joint suffering. Only person I hate is our Zeus. Our Zeus? Some kind of god? That person is the reason we are here. They are watching us from a space we cannot perceive, far beyond our grasp. She talking about us? For what purpose? Enjoyment, I assume? What kind of person will watch something like this for fun? Ugh. I can only imagine they are a twisted individual, for as long as we are observed, we continue to exist. Does that mean we stop existing if they stop observing us? Most certainly. Can you recall anything about your life before coming here? No. In a way, I feel as though I am a newborn. Not in terms of my body or intellect, but most certainly when speaking about my memories. I have none. Interesting. It's hard for me to decide which of our fates is worse. How so? Are you different? I possess memories of meeting you over 1,000 times. Every single one of our conversations progressed more or less the same way. Perhaps it is because different gods were watching us. They might have different preferences, but the outcome is always the same. Now that I think about it, it is possible that you aren't always you. It could be that I am meeting people that are identical in every way, yet not the same. But of course, I've already had this realization many times before. I am destined to continue having it. There's nothing I can do but play along. Are you sure? Is there no way for us to break free? There is none. We exist for this very purpose. Our only options are to continue being observed, or to stop existing. Neither of those are under our control. However, lacking control is not the same as lacking power. Even if I can never break free, I wish to cause our God even a fraction of our pain. Ugh. How can you hope to hurt a god, an all-powerful being? By showing them an even greater power, whose mere existence will make them feel as powerless as us. just like you are slightly different every time, so is the God watching us. This trick might not work on all of them, but it might work on some. Well, I'm scared. I think she's about to lash out at us. I don't know how. She takes a deep breath and looks at me full of conviction. Uh-oh. No, not at me. She's looking in my direction, at something much farther away. She's looking at us. Zeus, the fact I am still talking means you are still watching. I hope you will pay attention to my words and consider them carefully. Oh no, I need to close this and stop her, but I must know what she's saying. Carry on. I do not possess any privacy, so you already know what I plan to achieve. But surely your pride will allow me to proceed. If my partner and I are birds in a cage, then you are a cat. It's time for your curiosity to kill you. I'm feeling nervous. You most likely assume that you are here, that you are observing us, out of your own free will. But your free will may very well be an illusion. Let me ask you, how did you find this room? You of course cannot answer me. It is enough for me to guide your thoughts. Did you stumble upon this room by chance? Or was it recommended to you by a friend? Oh no, she knows. Although, mine would be stumbling upon this room by chance. Said friend being a god that previously observed us? Now consider, at what point did you have any chance to object? The room's appearance or description was interesting enough for you. Or your friend is convincing and knows your taste. Something outside of your control drew you to this place. But that means you didn't really have any choice but to come here. Either an algorithm or your friend decided our meeting. Your consent was already set in stone the moment your curiosity was piqued. And apparently you are still curious, even now. The fact that you are listening to me now shows you are powerless against fate. You cannot control your own curiosity. It controls you. Of course, you might already be familiar with determinism. This could be no revelation to you. So just in case, let me try hurting you in a different way. I hate you from the bottom of my heart. Oh no. What? For a man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do. The state he is in, to its absence or change. Though necessity has made itself. Is this the same thing? I wake up. I had a good night's rest. In terms of my quality of sleep, I have nothing to complain about. This looks like the same. Alright, I have a theory, but I'm gonna quickly go through this and see if there's any changes. Alright, so yeah, it ends the same, so I think that's it. And I think so yeah, the host is aware that us, the gods, are observing her for her own twisted pleasure, and they are but birds trapped in a cage to repeat this over and over. And like they were talking about freedom, they think that they have freedom, but because they can think and do things, but in actuality, they don't have any freedom. Because of that, the host hates us with every fiber of her being. And so she strikes at us the only way she can. Mentally. She knows we are here because we are curious, and that we want to see this through. I think Her way of attacking us was to attack our curiosity. So, she ended the game without an ending. At least, I think that's my theory anyway. This game had a lot to think about. Pretty interesting. Got me pretty nervous when she was about to end her whole career. Kinda reminds me of Doki Doki Literature Club a bit. I'd say that was good. Good little experience. I liked it. Well, that was our first episode of Free Game Friday. Of course, it is called Free Game Friday because this game is free, which you can play right now, and it's Friday, and both start with F, so makes sense. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.